All right. I want to thank the usual people at the outset of the show. Telos for the great sound, Joe Talbot, and it is great sound. And I want to say this again. If you have not yet fitted some earbuds into whatever it is you use, oh, man, you got to get to it. You really have got to get to it because we are in stereo and it sounds really good. All thanks to Telos. Keith Rowland, my webmaster. The producer position, a new person in the seat. Heather Wade, welcome to Midnight in the Desert. Dr. J had a lot on his plate. However, he remains associate producer, and so he is still with us and assisting Heather, who I think is going to be dynamite in the job. The Bell Gab website, if you dare. People who love Art Bell. Got to change that name. I just can't say it. Midnight in Desert, that's another chat site. So people are asking, where can I go to chat about the show? You can go to Bell Gab, if you dare, or you can go to Midnight in Desert, and all will be well. Bell Gab is a little rough. Vaguely lovable as always, but rough. And the stream guys who get us out there to you, lv.net, gets it from here to there. And sales, of course, Peter Eberhardt. He is our sales guy up in Alaska, way up north. Okay, a little announcement. Many are asking for Brendan and Barbara. You know, the GIS, Ghost Investigators Society. 20th. Actually, we were going to have them on this week, but it now looks like it will be the 20th, but they are scheduled for then, so yay. All right, a couple of things. We are actively now, listen very carefully, if you're a computer person, if you're an app developer, attention! If you're knowledgeable in creating both iOS and Android apps, that's a lot of knowledge, that can access our subscriber database. That's what we're doing. We need a new app. So if you can design something that would access our subscriber database of logins to securely download and play the podcasts on mobile devices, then we need you. Or if you have expertise in adapting, these are not my words, or interfacing with existing membership software to publish a secure password-protected RSS feed to current podcast players, that might work also. Greek to me. If you're interested, send your proposals to webmaster@artbell.com. That's webmaster@artbell.com. Okay? I hope somebody out there, and I'm certain there is somebody out there that can do it. And by the way, we have announced on Facebook, I don't know if you received the announcement, that the price of the show is going to $7.99 beginning August 20th. Now, not for those of you who have already subscribed as time travelers. You, as long as you maintain your membership month to month, are locked in forevermore at $5. In fact, don't panic. You can still join and become a time traveler for $5, and that locks you in as long as you remain current. Why are we going to $7.99? Well, because we're miserable SOB money grubbing, whatever. No, not really. Because this is a you-supported radio program. Meaning, if we don't have advertisements, for example, I mean, we do have them right now. We have minuscule 6 minutes an hour. But even if they were to go away, this was designed to be a listener-supported program, and the whole concept was to have this live program, the one we're doing right now, right? Live and free. That's good. And it is free. And the reason it's free is because of members like you. So there you have it. A couple of items in the news. Obama's power plant climate plan shifts to the courts. Of course. He wants to clamp down on power plants, emissions, a new federal plan that, if successful, would attempt to slow down global warming by dramatically shifting the way Americans get and use electricity. Touting the plan at a White House ceremony, he described his unprecedented carbon dioxide limits as the biggest step ever taken on U.S. climate. On that point, at least his opponents agreed. They denounced it, of course, as an egregious federal overreach that would spend all kinds of money on things that we shouldn't spend it on and send power prices surging. And, if you look at Obamacare and what that did, you got to listen to this, I guess. Former President Jimmy Carter is okay, but he has undergone a liver operation to remove a little something in his liver that shouldn't be there. They're saying he'll be fine. It really was an elective kind of thing, but, when a president has something like this, it's certainly worth noting. This is from The Anomalist, and a chupacabra apparently has hit a Russian village. Now, this is interesting. Dozens of chickens were slaughtered, the carcasses and feathers strewn about after what definitely looks like a violent encounter, and no blood. This would be a Linda item. No blood. These attacks were fast and accurate, leaving behind only one live chicken who can tell no stories, unfortunately. But they're thinking this looks very much like a chupacabra type of attack. All right. There is a prominent scientist now who I'm going to look for. Dr. Lanza is his name. And he thinks that consciousness, and I so agree to this, he thinks that consciousness may be the answer to everything. Everything. Wouldn't that be something? So we will seek him out, get him on the air, and ask all about it. All right, we're going to take a very quick break, I think, and when we get back, we're going to attempt to get to Stephen Bassett. Now, I'm not sure we're going to make it. For some reason, he hadn't been there. You all know, I think, Stephen Greer, right? Stephen Greer, C-SETI, Stephen Greer. I understand he's made a lot of changes, by the way, in what he says now and believes. But that issue aside, I interviewed Stephen Greer over many, many years. And there was one time that Stephen told me that SETI, not C-SETI, but SETI, got a real hit that the public was not told about. Now, I had Seth Shostak on to talk a little bit about this. And Seth did sort of put it off to, well, maybe it was a minor functionary or something like that that, gave the information out. However, somebody sent me something today that came from, actually it's Stephen Greer's voice, but it came from a YouTube presentation, and it just knocked me for a loop. And I want you to listen, and listen very carefully to what Stephen Greer.
Now, I'm going to say something here because this is enough years after it happened. A few years ago, there was a show called Coast to Coast with Art Bell. And it was on the cover of Time magazine, and I was one of his favorite guests. And when I'd be on that show, it really lit things up at certain agencies. And one time I was on his show, and a few years back, towards the end of his career there, and this issue came up, and I said, well, I have a source high up in SETI that confirms to me that they, in fact, have received interplanetary signals, but in a kind of phased, not normal array. It was kind of a pulsed array, and that it was kept secret and covered up. And the SETI people were furious. Subsequently, Seth Shostak got on the show and just said, well, Dr. Greer knew what he was talking about, and he probably talked to some volunteer computer operator, because we have all this network of volunteers. What Art Bell didn't know, and which Seth Shostak didn't know, and which I'm going to say now because it's enough water gone under the bridge, is that the guy who told me that was the founder of the SETI project and the Drake equation, Dr. Drake. He told me that they had that contact. Moreover, a man who had been one of Carl Sagan's best friends, the best man at his wedding, confirmed it. And he had been present when the WOW signal came in at Harvard.
So you can imagine how that blew me away. And you can imagine, by the way, Seth Shostak is scheduled for the show. So, oh my goodness, I about flipped when I heard that. I mean, I really flipped. So, okay, we're going to do open lines. That's what we're going to do. And anything you want to talk about is fair game. And by the way, I'm looking for a witch. I want to say this again and be very, very clear. I am looking for a real witch. Now, I'm looking for a witch who believes in real magic, casting spells, cauldron stirring, broom riding, all the things you associate with a witch. You know, the shoes sticking out from the house would not be pink. Let's put it that way. Probably be a black shoe. So I'm looking for that kind of a witch. If you are one of them, or if you know one of them, please email me. I am artbell@artbell.com. Pretty easy, right? artbell@artbell.com. That said, what do you want to talk about? Anything is fair game. You know. All right. Let me go ahead and do this. You remember the other night we were talking about experiences that we've had that we haven't talked about? All right, it was about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago now. And I thought that this subject had been talked to death. And frankly, I think it has. Except I just had the experience. And I'm talking about what I can only call a shadow person. So let me tell you what happened to me, okay? And then we'll get to the phones. I was sitting in my ham shack. That's the place I've got all my ham radio gear and computers and stuff in the house. Now separate from my studio, where I am now. And I had been working at the computer. You know, we talk show hosts do a lot of working at computers because we get a lot of email and guests and producers and everything. And so I'd been staring at the screen for a while, and I mentioned that because I think it might have something to do with what happened. I suddenly saw movement to my right. And I just looked over to the right, and there was a figure there. And I don't mean just, a figure. It was the shadow of a being. It was a shadow of something. And it just scared the you-know-what out of me. And I looked again, and it wasn't there. And I looked behind. I started looking around the room. I looked behind me, and there it was. Boom, there it was, and boom, it was gone. And I was sitting there in shock, and it appeared to the left of me. And I completely lost it, folks. Everybody was asleep in the house, so I'll tell you the truth. I went into where we store firearms and got one. And I went through the whole house. I went through the garage. I went through the yard. I got out my big 5 gazillion candle power light, started poking around with that. It just scared me to death. So I guess I've seen what I don't know. What else do you call it? Shadow person? I guess. First time in my life I've had this experience. And here is what I think. And I only just think this. When you spend a long time staring at a computer screen, it begins to change your eyes, if not your brain. Haven't you ever noticed that? That when you spend hours in front of a computer screen, something begins to change in you. It's perhaps subtle, it's tiring, but I think there's a change behind just subtle and tiring. I don't know what it is. It may be a different, the refresh rate of the computer screen, or it may have nothing to do with computers at all. It just may be that these things are here. But what the hell are they? I mean, you start thinking about it. What are they? Are these entities of some kind? Are they ghosts? I mean, another person could have seen this and have said, I saw a ghost. Right? I could have as easily come on tonight and said I saw a ghost. But, through the years having talked about shadow people, that's what it looked like. Now, this being had human form or something close to human form. If there were arms, they were down by the side. They weren't out. But there were legs. Just enough to scare the you-know-what right out of you. And it did that. So first to the right of me, then behind me, which was really freaky, and then to the left of me, and then I was so far out of there so fast. Whatever it's worth, I don't know what these things are, and I doubt anybody actually can document what they are. But now I know they are. I did shadow people many, many years ago. What was it, back in the late 80s, 90s? So I remember the reports. I remember the drawings. I remember the descriptions. But I sure as heck never expected to see something like that. It was I almost don't want to say human form, but it was close to a human form. That's the only way I can describe it. It was not solid. You could still see something through it. Maybe that added to the terror of it all. I don't know. But it utterly drove me nutty. All right, let me give you the numbers. With that, we can talk about anything you want. Public number for all of you is area code 952-225-5278. That's area code 952-225-5278. Now, beyond that public number, yes, you can get in on Skype, whether you're in America and Canada or in the world. Please take my advice. I will not give this lecture many more times, but I want to do it because it benefits all of you to hear clear audio. So if you've got, a smartphone, it's so simple. Put Skype on your smartphone. Just put Skype on. And then once you've done that, if you're in North America or Canada, set it up to call MITD 55. MITD 51. Oh, don't let me get that wrong. MITD 51. And then you can go to the you can go to your phone, and you can do it right now. Go to your contacts, and you'll see MITD 51 in there. You can hit it and call us free. If you're outside North America, Canada, and the U.S., it's MITD 55. MITD 55. Let us begin and say, hello, Trey. You are on the air on Skype.
Hey, Art. It's interesting that you brought up the shadow people.
Yeah.
About 2 or 3 months ago, I was sitting outside smoking on my porch, typing on BellGab, as usual.
Uh-huh.
And I looked across myself, across the parking lot, and saw what looked like maybe a 7 or 8 foot tall shadow of a person just sort of like meld into the ground.
Yeah.
The lower half of the body was not there.
Uh-oh.
And it looked like it ducked down almost as if it had recognized me seeing it and was trying to hide. And at first, in my mind, immediately I thought we'd had a bunch of break-ins and it's just somebody creeping around the parking lot.
At least I had a whole body. I don't want half a body of anything. That's
no, it's no good.
I'm telling you, though, this scared me so badly.
I was completely terrified. I froze for a moment. I didn't know what to do, and I just sort of casually backed up, like, like hopefully he doesn't notice what I'm doing.
Okay, so question. What do you think these things are?
I don't know. Maybe this has something to do with time travel, too, possibly. Maybe we're seeing echoes of other things that were and may be.
Things that were, that's a pretty good guess, actually. Things that were. I wonder if there's sort of a lingering echo of things that were.
It's very possible.
Maybe it was even me at some earlier time.
Don't do that to me. Now I'm not going to be able to go to sleep tonight.
Well, it could be. It could be me or anybody else, but whatever it was, when these things happen to you, you're not the same after it.
Absolutely not. It's bizarre, and I don't really believe in this sort of thing, and it's just so odd to have that happen.
Well, there's nothing like having it happen to you to make you a believer.
Exactly. Hey, Art, can I give you a movie recommendation?
You may.
Have you seen the movie Pontypool?
What is it again?
It's called Pontypool, and actually the author would make a good guess.
I haven't seen it. Why?
It's about a radio DJ and the power of words, and I don't know, it's maybe sort of zombie-ish. I don't know. It's a pretty neat picture, and it has a lot to say, and the book's pretty good, too.
Most of the movies they've made about talk hosts are...
Well, you're the ultimate talk host to me. When I think of talk host, I see you smoking and wearing like black at your computer. That's the romanticized idea.
All right. Well, here, I'll give you the truth. The truth is I've got these electronic cigarettes now. Anybody who has been a smoker all their life will learn very quickly that they either give it up, the tobacco version, or else. And when I say or else, I guess you know what I mean, right? It's going to get you. Let's go to, I think, Lockport, New York. You have achieved airdom on Midnight in the Desert. Extinguish your device and proceed. Turn that off, please.
Okay.
All the way off. Very good.
It's off.
All right, good. Welcome to the program.
Yes, how are you, Art? How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
My name is Steve Legase. I'm calling you from Lockport, New York.
Yes, sir.
I heard you talking about the shadow people. Well, I'm 50 years old, and I seen one the first time when I was 3 years old, and again for the last time on a Tuesday morning, August 16th, 2011, in my room. The thing had orange eyes. It locked up my body. It was 5:30 in the morning. It locked up my body for 5 minutes. Now, throughout my whole life, this thing gave me some kind of like special where I could see the future and see things, and I'd be able to tell people something was going to happen. And it would always happen.
Well, that's cool. I didn't get any of that. I got scared out of my wits, is what I got.
I hear you. You know what? And at first, it scared me too, and then I realized 3 days ago and up until today that it was a positive experience for me, and I kicked myself in the ass. I didn't know it could read my mind when I was sitting there looking at it for the 5 minutes.
Well, at least I can report I didn't shoot a shadow person.
You don't want to shoot it, no.
No,
you have to go hurt us.
Yeah, I hear you.
For Dark Matter News, I'm Leo Ashcraft. Nearly 50,000 customers were without power across southern Ontario after an intense storm battered the province on Sunday, bringing heavy winds, rain, hail, and possible funnel clouds. The outages were spread over an area from Lake Huron to Toronto. The utility company, Toronto Hydro, is reporting multiple outages across the city, including one at Yorkdale Shopping Centre. Elsewhere, the wild weather blew down trees, canceled a music festival, and, according to the Ontario Provincial Police, sent 6 people to the hospital when a tent collapsed near Proton Station, a community about 50 kilometers southeast of Owen Sound. There were also reports of funnel clouds near Orangeville, north of Toronto, earlier in the day. The Ontario Provincial Police said it has received many reports of downed trees and power lines, but no reports of serious damage. Due to safety concerns, the Veld Music Festival that was being held at Downsview Park in Toronto was called off. If you think this was a normal storm, take a look at the photos snapped over Toronto at darkmatternews.com. The plane crash, which killed 3 members of Osama bin Laden's family in Hampshire in the United Kingdom, is said to have taken place in near-perfect conditions, raising suspicions about the incident. 3 members of the bin Laden family, as well as the pilot, died when their private jet crashed near the end of the runway. But The Guardian has raised questions over the crash, as the plane was equipped with high-tech gear to guide it in safely. And Blackbush Airport has precision approach pathway indicators, adding that it's not the first time there has been a bin Laden family plane crash. They say it is, in fact, the 3rd time members of the bin Laden family have been killed in a plane crash. Osama's father was killed when his Beechcraft 18 crashed in Saudi Arabia in 1967 while on his way home to marry his 23rd wife. Salem bin Laden, the half-brother of Osama, died in 1988 when his aircraft drifted into high-voltage power lines in San Antonio, Texas. A hitchhiking robot that captured the hearts and fans of worldwide met its demise in the United States. The Canadian researchers who created HitchBot as a social experiment said that someone in Philadelphia damaged the robot beyond repair early Saturday, ending its first American tour after about 2 weeks. The kid-sized robot set out to travel cross-country after successfully hitchhiking across Canada in 26 days last year in parts of Europe. It's immobile on its own, relying on the kindness of strangers.
Please pick me up and put me in your vehicle. I am HitchBot, a hitchhiking robot.
Whoa, we talked again to me.
Those who picked it up often passed it to other travelers or left it where others might notice it. It started in Marblehead, Massachusetts on July 17th with its thumb raised skyward, a grin on its digital face and tape wrapped around its cylindrical head that read San Francisco or bust.
Maybe I can make a cameo appearance in a film when we get to California. I will make my big Hollywood debut. I can see it now. HitchBot, the first robot TV star.
The robot bounced around the Boston area and was briefly taken to sea. One day, it took in a Red Sox game, checking off one of the items on the bucket list created for it. But HitchBot never made it off the East Coast. The creators were sent an image of the vandalized robot Saturday, but couldn't track its location because the battery was dead. They said they don't know who destroyed it or why. The robot was designed to be a talking travel companion and could toss out factoids and carry limited conversation. A GPS in the robot tracked its location, and a camera randomly snapped photos about every 20 minutes to document its travels. During past travels, the robot attended a comic convention and a wedding, and it had its portrait painted in the Netherlands. It once spent a week with a heavy metal band. With the robot destroyed, Zeller said she was concerned about children who loved HitchBot and followed it on social media. Her team doesn't plan to release the last photo of it to protect young fans who might be distraught. I'm Leo Ashcraft for Dark Matter News.
New producer, are you there?
Good evening, Art. What are you up to this evening?
Well, number one, I wanted to introduce this pleasant voice to everybody as my new producer. That's one thing. And your name, your name is Heather Wade, right?
Yes, it is.
It is, yes. And the reason that I brought you on is because you're about the only person in the world that I have told, and how long ago was it, Heather? I told you about this encounter I had with this damn shadow thing.
Oh, I think about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I told you about 2 weeks ago. That was actually before we even got on the air, right?
Yes,
yeah, okay.
It was.
That was
it
before.
was a few days before you got back on the air before the 20th,
that's
and
right.
You were terrified.
Yeah, that's right. And it was a few days prior to that it had happened. So I just sort of wanted to bring you on for two reasons. One, to say, listen to the voice of my new producer, because if you're a guest, you'll probably be hearing it. And number two, I told her my story. I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to do it on the air, but I finally thought, what the heck? And I just thought I would verify that I did, in fact, tell you then.
Yes, you did. And what was my suggestion? I think the audience needs to hear this.
Yeah, I know. I know you said that. I'm always really hesitant because I do a show on this kind of thing. When finally something does happen to me, I don't know. I feel hesitant to talk about it because it sounds like it's cooked or something, but it's not. It really happened. Heather, you're a sweetheart. Thank you for coming on the air, verifying my story and all that stuff.
Anytime.
All right. Take care. That's Heather Wade, my new producer. So there you have it. It really did. It scared me as much as anything has scared me in my whole life. I guess, to be fair, I was in shock after the UFO incident, actually a couple of them. Shock, but not as scared as I was. That night I was scared. I grabbed a gun. Not ashamed to say that, because I had no idea, no idea what I was dealing with. I still don't. No clue. It's completely and utterly unsettling. And here is, I believe, Debbie. Hello, Debbie.
Hey, Art. How are you?
Well, I guess you can hear how I am.
Well, I'm really enjoying the show, and it's really great to have you back.
Thank you.
Anyways, I've got two stories. I guess I'll let you pick. One is a shadow person thing that happened to me back in the 80s.
Really?
And, yep. And the other one was an out-of-body experience that I had back on May 20th, which was equally as amazing.
Yeah, but right now, let's go with the shadow person, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Can you describe to me what your shadow person or what it looked like?
You know what? I know it's going to sound corny, but it looked like Dick Tracy. Do you remember the Dick Tracy cartoons?
I do.
From the 60s,
Of
and
course.
they were in the funny papers.
Sure.
Yeah. It looked like Dick Tracy, only in the shadows. And this being would stand at the end of my bed any night that my husband didn't come to bed with me.
Oh, good Lord.
So, yeah, he would stay up and watch television sometimes.
Well, it must have been to the point, after the first couple of times, you must have been dragging your husband into the bedroom.
I can't tell you how terrifying it actually was. And I had 3 small children at the time. So I was exhausted by 8 o'clock, and I would go in, and sometimes I would just fall asleep. And this presence was, you could tell that someone was there. It would wake you up. It would wake me up out of a dead sleep, and I would see him standing at the end of the bed.
Well, that's even more horrifying because you're at that point, you're between sleep and being very awake. And boy, if that doesn't give you a heart attack, I don't know what will.
Well, it was really, really frightening. And, and this went on for, I don't know, I'd say years.
Okay. Did your Dick Tracy years?
Years.
Did he have arms, legs, discernible, everything?
Only thing I could tell was, this person was in the shadows and just, I could see a hat and a face and kind of like just square shoulders in long and black. I couldn't discern any arms or legs, but what I later determined and what I later found out, which is the really interesting part of the story,
yes,
is that someone very close to me had put a hex on me.
Oh.
And I wasn't a big believer in hexes, but I got it on pretty good word that this thing that followed me for so many years was a familiar, and this was a male that had put this hex on me. Was his familiar. Was
this some male that you had felt you had treated him incorrectly or something?
I had not. The male figure was actually my father.
Oh, your father?
My father.
Why would your father put a hoax on you?
A hex.
Or a hex. Sorry.
Well, I married someone that he didn't like.
Ah.
And that person was killed in a motorcycle accident, and he sold him the motorcycle.
Now, dads don't generally put hexes on daughters. I mean, it's not one of those things that a dad would do. Your dad must have been, well, what's the right word?
Well, it was hateful, spiteful.
Definitely hateful. And you'd think he would put the hex on the husband, not you.
He did, and he was killed.
Okay, so it was the both of you, really.
It was.
Yikes.
And there's many other things that go with that, and I'm not going to go into all of those because it'd take an awfully long time. But anyways, that the Dick Tracy shadow figure stayed with me for many years. And I tried to call in when you had Evelyn Paglini on several times back, way back when.
Right. God bless her. I hope she is well. We are now looking for another Evelyn.
Well, I hope you find her. She really was a spiritual warrior, and I really admired her a lot. And I wanted to tell her my story so bad because, she was so knowledgeable on, these different groups and, all of that.
This is why I want a real witch.
Mm-hmm.
They know
a real one.
they know about spiritual warfare, and a lot of people call themselves witches. They're not spiritual warriors, and that's what I want because, frankly, a lot of the serious things are battles.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, thank you so very much. I appreciate your call. Good talking to you, and again, anything you want to talk about is fair game tonight. That was a good one. That was definitely a good one. Can you imagine that? A hex on the both of them. What daddy would do that to his daughter? I could understand a hex on the guy, but his own daughter. Wow. Let's go. I don't know where I'm going. It doesn't really matter. It says anonymous. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
It's funny you're doing this topic. I was going to call you on Friday. A few years ago, I had a serious problem with the shadow nonsense.
What is this? What? It's so common.
I know what it is, and I can tell you how to see it for yourself, and then I can tell you how to get rid of it.
Getting rid of it, part of it, I want to hear right away.
Okay. Well, it's kind of like getting out of sleep paralysis. The harder you fight it, the worse it gets. You have to relax and let go of the fear. And it's kind of the same thing with these things.
Right.
I saw one.
So how do you do that? How do you get rid of fear? I mean, when you see something that is pretty much not of this world, I mean, you can see through it and you can see other parts of the room, right? It's just a figure. I don't know how you conquer that fear because it's just abnormal.
What I did was the first time I saw the thing, it scared me to death. I mean, and I'm a fairly rational person, and I looked at this thing. I didn't blink. I didn't look away because I assumed it was one of those things where, my mind was mistaking shadows and making a shape that wasn't really there, like a coat rack looks like a guy standing there. Anyway, it wasn't that. And I never looked away from it, and the thing was standing in a stairwell, and it just kind of tipped back. And, I got up, I turned on all the lights, I got a gun, I freaked out. The next day I was telling a buddy at work about it, and I never heard tell of the shadow person my entire life. And I was describing it to him, and he said, that's a real thing. You got to look it up on the internet. People have seen these things. So I went home and looked it up. I thought, well, this is horrible. So the more research I did, I never found anybody that got hurt by one. There was never nobody was sent to a hospital by a shadow person. So I was resolved that the next time I saw one, I was going to do the same thing I did with sleep paralysis. It didn't hurt me the first time I saw it. I'm just going to assume it's not going to hurt me the second time I see it. I'm going to relax.
And so you did?
I did. And you can do this too if you can get rid of the fear. And the trick is to not look away.
Okay. What happened?
Okay.
You relaxed, and then what?
I relaxed. The second time I saw it, it was a praying mantis.
Wonderful. That would just cheer me right up.
Well, it sounds ridiculous. And what's weird is same height, same place, same kind of like standing in the shadows. But this time it was,
praying mantis.
Praying mantis like things on the wall.
Yeah, okay, so small, like you would have on the wall, or big?
No, it was like 8 feet tall. I mean, it was terrible. So
sure. I'd just relax away with that.
Well, I looked that one up too, and apparently in the area in which I was living at the time, that was something that people saw commonly. But anyway, I guess it has something more to do with the extraterrestrial experience. But all of that aside,
listen, I'm sorry, I've got to interrupt you. I'm 70. If what I saw had turned into a praying mantis, I'd be dead now. I don't know. When you're talking this relaxation stuff, you're going to have to do better than that. I don't, once it turns into, I relax with the shadow, and it turns into a praying mantis, and you're telling me that that was a good finish.
Well, yes and no. Now that I knew what I was dealing with, I made do a little more research, and I could. Well, the internet's your friend, but I went and did a little more research and found out this was another common experience that many people had. And again, nobody'd been hurt by one of these things.
Sometimes the internet's your friend. I remember back when I started this whole damn topic in the first place, long ago, I went and looked it up on the internet, and all it had was terrifying pictures of these shadow people. I didn't even think it was real when somebody first brought it up. I said shadow person.
It's
all over the internet.
But anyway, the way to get rid of it is positivity, and that sounds kind of cliched. The way I got rid of it was with Howard Jones music in 80s comedies. But it kind of feeds on – it seemed to get worse the more afraid I was. But the less consumed with – because at the time when I was seeing these things, I was miserable. My life sucked, and I was upset about a few things. And it seemed to kind of show up more often the angrier I was. So I consumed myself with, I made sure I wasn't watching anything dark on television. I surrounded myself with, upbeat music. And anyway, it just kind of went away after that. Like,
okay.
I still see one occasionally, but I'm not afraid of it. It doesn't bother me. It's not this. But it seems to be you need to relax, get rid of the fear.
I would like to say that you have calmed me right down, but you have not. And nevertheless, I appreciate your attempt. Thank you very much.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
Yeah, take care. No, that didn't do it. I mean, the shadow person is terrifying enough, and then see it move or have it move on you and then be first to your right, then behind you, and then to your left. I just fled. Once I saw it to the left and it disappeared, and it did, I fled. And I've already told you. I got a gun, went all around, was prepared to try a shot. If I saw it, I didn't. That's probably how you end up shooting the wrong person or something. God, it was terrifying. And if I had managed to somehow suddenly relax, do you honestly think this thing, had it turned into a gigantic 8-foot praying mantis, would have relaxed me? No. Not even close. It would have finished me off for sure. Once again, if you're outside North America, that means America and Canada. Anywhere in the rest of the world, it's really easy to get through. Just call us on Skype at MITD55, MITD55, outside the U.S. Love to hear from you. Stacked full of calls here in the U.S. And speaking of calls, in Ottawa something or another, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Hart. It's Rob from Ottawa.
Hey,
Roswell's to you.
Thank you.
I'm, I guess, one of your tasty Canadian time travelers.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. The first call you got after you made your
mission.
Yeah, you made your mission public. I don't know if you asked if it's a shadow person or a ghost. I don't know. I'll tell you what happened to me quickly. I've seen, the corner of your eye thing.
Yes.
You see something there. We've all seen that. What made mine different, this thing went across the room. It went from left to right, like it didn't want to be seen.
Yeah, there you have it. I want to add something just real quickly.
Yeah.
This was not a corner of your eye thing. I mean, when I first noted that something was there present, it was a corner of my eye, but then I turned toward it and I saw the damn thing. Then I saw it behind me. It had form. It was real. It disappeared. It was then to the left of me and then gone.
No, mine was just like the other caller. It had no legs, no head. It was about waist high. It was a dark object. We had gone to Vancouver. We were staying in an older hotel, nice hotel, 1912, and we were on the 5th floor. I say that because there's no headlights at that floor. The drapes are very, very heavy, so I'm not getting any light. And I just happened to get up 2 in the morning, went to the bathroom, went into the small little kitchenette, grabbed some orange juice. Now, the reason I wasn't afraid probably because I was half asleep. I took my slug of orange juice, and I was appearing in from the kitchenette back in the living room. This thing just right across the room. And I went, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. And I wasn't afraid probably because I was half asleep. So I lied down. My wife's there. She's not moving at all, and it's a king bed. She's not moving at all. So I lie down, okay, and I'm just thinking about this thing. And then at the end of the bed, I feel some pressure. Not a lot of pressure,
yes,
but a little bit of pressure.
Yes.
Now, I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to look back. I'm thinking now, there's no way I'm going to look back. And I figured, okay, if this thing doesn't touch me, I'm not going to look back, and I'll just let it go. And I fell asleep, but there was definitely pressure at the end of my bed as well.
How did you fall asleep? That'd be the last thing in the world I could do after that.
Well, again, I was tired. It was 2:30 in the morning. I felt a little pressure. I didn't want to look back. I just was afraid to see what I would find. So
I'm going to guess you're on a Bluetooth, right?
I'm on a Bluetooth. No, yeah. I'm on a cell phone. Yeah,
cell phone. Okay.
Yeah. So, I figured as long as the pressure doesn't become any more so, or this thing doesn't grab me, I'm not going to look back.
So you fell asleep, and when you woke up, everything was all right.
Everything was fine. I told my wife about it. I thought, and then I started trying to put pieces together. Okay, well, the curtains are heavy. There's no light. We're up on the 5th floor. I figured whatever this thing was, didn't want to be seen. Yeah. I figured that it probably, it was a beautiful suite, and it was a good location. And I'm thinking maybe this entity liked that.
I got it. We've got a break. I've got to go. Thanks for the story, though.
Okay. Bye.
I appreciate it. Take care.